Good evening, everyone. I want to start by asking you a question, a simple one, but one that's often difficult to answer honestly. What's a regret you carry? Not the kind you brush off with a laugh, but the one that lives deep inside like a small, stubborn pebble in your shoe. Got it in mind? Hold on to it. Let's sit with it for a moment. Regret. The very word makes most of us squirm. It's the unwanted guest at the dinner party of our lives. We do everything to avoid it, no regrets, we say, as though declaring it will protect us. We bury it, numb it, or package it up in glossy platitudes. But let's be honest, regret doesn't just disappear because we decide it's inconvenient. It's part of being human. Tonight, I want to flip the script on regret. Because regret isn't just pain, it's a teacher. A wise, sometimes harsh, but deeply compassionate teacher. And when we're brave enough to face it, it can be one of the most powerful forces for growth in our lives. The lesson of regret. Think about your regret, the one I asked you to hold on to. What does it whisper to you? Is it about something you did? Or maybe something you didn't do? Maybe it's a word you wish you said or one you wish you hadn't. Here's the truth, regret is a map. It points to the values that matter most to us. We regret the things that collide with our integrity, our love, our dreams. When we feel regret, it's because we stray from our internal compass. And yet we often treat regret as something to avoid at all costs. We act as if it's a sign of failure, proof that we're broken or weak. But what if regret isn't a sign of weakness? What if it's a sign that we care? That we are daring greatly even when we fall short? Regret as connection. Let me tell you a story. Years ago, I had a moment with someone I loved deeply, a moment I've carried with me for years. I said something out of anger, something that landed so far from the truth of how I felt. And I saw the look in their eyes, the hurt, the confusion. I wanted to take it back, but I couldn't. For years, I carried the weight of that regret, letting it build walls between us. Until one day I decided to face it. I apologized not just for the words, but for the distance they created. And what I discovered was profound. Regret, when shared with vulnerability, became a bridge. It reconnected us. Regret, at its core, is relational. It reminds us of the impact we have on others and the impact they have on us. It's an invitation to repair, to reconnect, to heal. Turning toward regret. So how do we turn toward regret instead of away from it? It starts with courage. The courage to look our regrets in the eye and say, what are you here to teach me? It requires self-compassion. Regret can so easily tip into shame, but when we treat ourselves with kindness, we create the space to learn without losing ourselves in self-criticism. And finally, it takes action. Regret is most powerful when it inspires us to change, to make amends, to take risks, to live more fully in alignment with our values. The gift of regret. Regret will visit all of us, it's inevitable. But it doesn't have to be a weight we carry alone. It can be a lantern lighting the way forward. It can remind us of our humanity, our resilience, and our capacity for love. So tonight I want to leave you with this, what would happen if we embrace regret, not as something to fear, but as a guide. What if we stopped running from it and started learning from it? Because regret, when we let it, can teach us how to live with more courage, more connection, and more heart. And that is its greatest power. Regret is a compass, one that we often hesitate to trust or even acknowledge. It's the internal guide that signals when we veered off course, though it doesn't point us north in the traditional sense. Instead, it points inward toward the values that define us, the priorities that give meaning to our lives, and the relationships that shape who we are. When we experience regret, it's a signal, a deep and often painful reminder of what truly matters. It's not random, it doesn't arise from the trivial. Regret emerges from the spaces where our actions or inactions conflict with our most deeply held beliefs. Regret is not simply an emotion to endure, it's a form of clarity. Though it rarely feels that way in the moment. It shows us the places where we are out of alignment, the decisions or circumstances that have taken us away from our authentic selves. Think of the moments you felt regret. They don't come from situations where the stakes were low. They come from crossroads where your choices intersected with your values. And you turned or were forced in a direction that didn't sit well with your heart. These moments are where the compass needle wavers and quivers, struggling to find its pull. What makes regret so powerful is that it's a reflection of our humanity. It's not about perfection or weakness, it's about care and connection. Regret tells us that we care deeply about something, an ideal, a person, a dream, or a principle. It arises when the choices we make do not fully honor that care, when the path we take diverges from the one we hoped we would walk. If regret were nothing more than pain, we might dismiss it. But its weight carries meaning, an undeniable sense of significance. It's why it lingers, why we replay the moments, the words, the silences, and the actions over and over in our minds. Regret can be as subtle as a whisper or as loud as a siren. It's the pang you feel when you remember a missed opportunity, a relationship you let slip away, or a time when fear kept you from saying what your heart was urging you to say. It's the ache of knowing you could have done better. Not because someone told you to, but because your inner compass knew it was possible. And yet regret isn't just about what we've done wrong, it's also about the moments we failed to act. It's the dreams we left unpursued, the risk we didn't take, the love we didn't express. Regret has an interesting way of revealing patterns. It's not isolated, it shows up in the same types of places, pointing consistently toward the same kinds of values. Perhaps you notice that your regrets often center around relationships, moments where pride, anger, or fear kept you from being the person you wanted to be with those you love. Or maybe your regrets live in the realm of courage, where self-doubt or hesitation stopped you from reaching for the life you dreamed of. These patterns aren't coincidences. They are the voice of your internal compass gently and sometimes urgently pulling you toward the truths you might not yet have faced. What's remarkable about regret is how universal it is. Every person, regardless of culture, age, or circumstance, experiences it, yet it feels deeply personal, as though it belongs to us alone. This duality is part of what makes regret so challenging. It connects us to a shared human experience, but it also isolates us in the specificity of our pain. In this way, regret serves as both a mirror and a magnifying glass. It shows us who we are, where we've been, and what we value most, but it also magnifies the weight of our choices and the impact they have had on our lives and the lives of others. Sometimes we treat regret as something to fear or avoid. We tell ourselves that living without regret is the ultimate goal, that somehow avoiding it makes us stronger or wiser. But this mindset misses the point. Regret isn't something to be outrun. It's something to be understood. It's not a sign of failure. It's a sign that we've engaged with life deeply enough to care about the outcomes. To live without regret would mean living without reflection, without introspection, and ultimately without growth. What makes regret especially potent is its ability to uncover what we might otherwise ignore. In the busyness of life, it's easy to lose sight of what matters most. We get caught up in routines, distractions, and external pressures, and before we know it, we're making choices that don't fully align with who we are or who we want to be. Regret cuts through that noise. It forces us to pause, to look back, and to ask hard questions. What did I value in that moment? What do I value now? And how can I move forward in a way that honors those values? Regret is also a source of motivation, though not in the way we typically think about motivation. It doesn't inspire us through excitement or ambition. Instead, it drives us through reflection and a desire for alignment. When we pay attention to our regrets, we begin to see the path forward more clearly. We start to recognize the areas where we can course correct, where we can take actions that bring us closer to our truest selves. This is the compass in action, guiding us not with force, but with a quiet, persistent pull. And yet, regret is rarely easy to confront. It's uncomfortable. It stirs up emotions we'd rather avoid: shame, guilt, sadness, even anger. But it's in this discomfort that the compass does its work. It's in the willingness to sit with regret, to listen to what it has to say, that we find clarity. This process is not about dwelling in the past, it's about learning from it. It's about recognizing that while we cannot change what has already happened, we can shape what happens next. When we view regret as a compass, we begin to shift our perspective. We stop seeing it as a burden or a failure and start recognizing it as a tool for growth. We allow it to guide us toward the things that matter most, even when the path is uncertain or difficult. Regret reminds us that we are human, that we are imperfect, and that we are capable of learning and evolving. It challenges us to embrace our values not as abstract ideals, but as guiding principles that shape our actions and decisions. In this way, regret is not just a reflection of the past, it's a bridge to the future. It connects us to our values, our priorities, and our potential. It helps us navigate the complexities of life with greater intention and authenticity. And while the compass of regret may not always point to an easy path, it always points to a meaningful one. Regret builds connection because it is fundamentally relational. When we reflect on our regrets, we often find that they are deeply tied to our interactions with others. It could be something we said that caused harm, something we didn't say when someone needed our support, or a moment when we failed to show up as our best selves. These regrets linger because they touch on the bonds that connect us to the people around us. They remind us of the impact we have on others and the ways we can either strengthen or weaken those connections through our choices and actions. Regret, in this sense, is a thread that ties us to our humanity. It reveals the depth of our care for the people in our lives. If we didn't care, we wouldn't feel regret. When we replay those moments of tension, hurt, or missed opportunities in our minds, it's not just because we wish we had made a better choice, it's because those moments represent a fracture in a relationship that matters to us. Whether the regret stems from a fleeting interaction or a long-standing relationship, it carries a message about connection. Something was lost or strained, and that loss matters. One of the most profound aspects of regret is its ability to create opportunities for repair. Relationships are rarely perfect. They are marked by misunderstandings, disagreements, and occasional lapses in judgment. Regret shows up as a signal that something needs attention. It can serve as a bridge to reconciliation, inviting us to reach out, to apologize, or to take responsibility for the ways we have fallen short. These moments of vulnerability, when embraced, often lead to deeper, more authentic connections. When we face regret with courage, it allows us to move beyond the surface. It encourages us to have difficult conversations, to admit where we were wrong, and to express emotions that might otherwise remain buried. These acts of vulnerability are the foundation of meaningful relationships. They show others that we are willing to do the hard work of maintaining and strengthening our bonds. In this way, regret is not an end, but a beginning, a chance to rebuild trust and intimacy where it may have been lost. At its core, regret is relational because it reminds us that we are not isolated beings. Our actions and choices ripple outward, affecting the people around us in ways we might not always see or understand in the moment. This interconnectedness is a fundamental aspect of being human. When we recognize the ways our regrets are tied to others, it deepens our awareness of the impact we have in the world. It calls us to be more mindful, more empathetic, and more intentional in our interactions. Regret also fosters connection by creating shared experiences. No one is immune to regret. It is a universal aspect of the human condition, one that transcends culture, age, and circumstance. When we share our regrets with others, we open a door to mutual understanding. We allow others to see our imperfections, our struggles, and our desires to grow. In doing so, we create space for others to share their own experiences, building a sense of connection and solidarity. There is something profoundly healing about sharing regret. It takes an emotion that often feels isolating and transforms it into a point of connection. When we say, I regret that, we are not just admitting a mistake, we are acknowledging the value of the relationship or the situation that gave rise to that feeling. We are saying, this mattered to me. You mattered to me. That acknowledgement has the power to bridge divides and to create openings for understanding and reconciliation. Regret also highlights the ways in which our relationships are dynamic and ever-changing. It reminds us that we are constantly learning and evolving, both as individuals and in our interactions with others. What we regret today may be a reflection of growth and indication that we are now able to see and understand things we couldn't in the moment. This perspective can deepen our empathy, not just for others, but for ourselves. It helps us recognize that relationships are not defined by single moments or choices, but by the ongoing process of showing up, reflecting, and striving to do better. When we reflect on regret in the context of connection, it also challenges us to consider the kind of legacy we want to leave in our relationships. What do we want others to remember about us? What kind of impact do we want to have on the people we care about? These questions are not abstract, they are grounded in the real, everyday moments where our actions and words shape the connections we hold dear. Regret reminds us of the importance of these moments and the opportunities they provide to align our actions with our values. Another important aspect of regret is its ability to inspire gratitude. When we reflect on what we regret, we often find ourselves appreciating the relationships or experiences that gave rise to those feelings. Regret shows us what we value by highlighting what we fear losing or what we wish we had protected more carefully. This awareness can deepen our appreciation for the people and moments that bring meaning to our lives. It encourages us to cherish and nurture those connections while we still have the chance. Regret also teaches us about forgiveness, both of others and of ourselves. When we regret something we've done, it can be easy to fall into a cycle of self-blame or to hold on to resentment toward others. But regret offers an alternative path, one of reflection, accountability, and letting go. It invites us to approach ourselves and others with compassion, recognizing that mistakes are a natural part of life and relationships. This process of forgiveness is not about dismissing the impact of our actions. It's about finding a way to move forward with greater understanding and connection. In many ways, regret is a mirror. It reflects not only our own choices, but also the dynamics of our relationships. It shows us where we have room to grow, where we need to make amends, and where we can strengthen the bonds that matter most. This reflection is not always easy or comfortable, but it is deeply valuable. It allows us to see our relationships in a new light, to appreciate their complexity, and to honor the ways they shape our lives. Regret also reveals the importance of presence. It reminds us that the time we have with others is finite and that our choices in those moments matter. When we look back on regrets, we often wish we had been more present, more attentive, or more open. This awareness can inspire us to bring greater presence and intention to our current relationships, creating connections that are more meaningful and fulfilling. Regret is ultimately an invitation to deepen our understanding of ourselves and others. It challenges us to look beyond the surface, to confront the ways we have fallen short, and to embrace the possibility of repair and growth. In this way, regret becomes a source of connection, not just to others, but to the values and principles that guide us. It calls us to be more authentic, more empathetic, and more engaged in the relationships that define our lives. Regret is a teacher, though not the kind we often welcome into our lives. It doesn't present its lessons in gentle tones or carefully planned curriculum. Instead, regret shows up uninvited, often unannounced. It forces us to confront truths we might prefer to ignore. Yet it is precisely this unflinching honesty that makes regret one of the most profound and impactful teachers we will ever encounter. Regret pushes us to examine our actions, our choices, and even the beliefs that guided us at pivotal moments. It doesn't just dwell in the past, it shapes how we move forward, equipping us with the insight and wisdom to navigate life with greater clarity and purpose. When regret enters our lives, it often arrives as a feeling of gnawing discomfort, an ache, or a heaviness that settles in our minds and hearts. This feeling is not random, it's the emotional equivalent of a highlighter marking moments in our lives where something significant happened, something worth paying attention to. Regret compels us to pause and ask, why does this moment stick with me? What was it about this choice or lack of choice that left such a lasting imprint? These questions are not easy to answer, but they are the foundation of the lessons regret has to offer. One of the most powerful lessons regret teaches us is about our values. It reveals, often with stark clarity, what matters most to us. When we regret a choice, it's usually because it conflicts with something we hold dear, our integrity, our relationships, our aspirations, or our sense of that. Regret acts as a mirror, reflecting back the disconnect between our actions and our values. It doesn't do this to punish us, but to guide us. It's as though regret is saying, look closely. This is what you truly care about. This is what you truly care about. This is what you want your life to stand for. Regret also teaches us about responsibility. It challenges us to own our actions, to acknowledge the impact of our choices on ourselves and others. This is not an easy lesson, as it often requires us to confront uncomfortable truths about who we were in a particular moment. But this confrontation is essential for growth. When we take responsibility for our regrets, we reclaim our power. We recognize that while we cannot change the past, we can learn from it and make different choices in the future. Responsibility, in this sense, is not about blame or shame, it's about agency. It's about realizing that we have the ability to shape our lives and our relationships in meaningful ways. Regret is also a teacher of humility. It reminds us that we are fallible, that we make mistakes, and that we don't always get it right. This realization can be humbling, but it is also deeply humanizing. It connects us to the shared experience of imperfection. None of us are immune to regret, and in that shared vulnerability, we find a sense of solidarity and compassion. Humility allows us to approach ourselves and others with greater understanding. It softens the edges of judgment and creates space for forgiveness, both of ourselves and of those who have caused us harm. Another lesson regret offers is about timing. Regret often stems from moments when we acted too quickly or not quickly enough, when we failed to seize an opportunity or rushed into a decision without fully considering its consequences. These moments teach us the value of mindfulness and reflection. They remind us that while life moves quickly, the choices we make carry weight and deserve our thoughtful attention. Regret encourages us to slow down, to consider not just what we are doing, but why we are doing it. This lesson is not about avoiding mistakes, but about making choices with greater awareness and intention. Regret also teaches us resilience. It shows us that even in the face of mistakes, missed opportunities, or painful outcomes, we have the capacity to endure, to adapt, and to grow. Regret can feel overwhelming at times, but it also contains the seeds of strength. When we face regret head on, we build the muscles of resilience. We learn that we can survive the discomfort of reflection, that we can extract meaning from even the most challenging experiences. Resilience is not about erasing regret, but about using it as fuel for growth. It's about turning pain into progress, learning into action. Regret is a teacher of empathy as well. When we reflect on our own regrets, we gain a deeper understanding of the complexities of human behavior. We see how fear, doubt, or limited perspective can influence decisions. This insight makes us more compassionate toward others who are navigating their own struggles and regrets. Empathy allows us to extend grace to those who have made mistakes, recognizing that their journey mirrors our own. It fosters connection and understanding, breaking down the barriers of judgment and creating space for genuine relationships. One of the quieter but equally profound lessons regret teaches is about self-awareness. It invites us to look inward, to examine not just what we did, but who we were in the moments that led to regret. What fears, insecurities, or beliefs were driving our choices, what blind spots might have influenced our actions. Regret pushes us to engage in honest self-reflection, to confront parts of ourselves we might otherwise avoid. This process can be uncomfortable, but it is also deeply illuminating. It helps us understand ourselves more fully, providing the insight we need to grow and evolve. Regret also has a way of teaching us about courage. Facing regret requires bravery. It asks us to sit with uncomfortable emotions, to confront our shortcomings, and to take steps toward repair or change. This is not an easy path, but it is a courageous one. Regret shows us that courage is not about never making mistakes, but about having the strength to learn from them. It's about daring to face the truth, even when it's painful, and using that truth as a foundation for growth. Another essential lesson regret teaches is about authenticity. It reminds us of the importance of living in alignment with our true selves. When we experience regret, it's often because we made choices that didn't fully honor who we are or we stand for. These moments challenge us to reconnect with our authenticity, to live in a way that reflects our values, our dreams, and our deepest truths. Authenticity is not about being perfect, it's about being real. It's about embracing the complexity of who we are and striving to live with integrity and intention. Regret also teaches us the value of action. While reflection is an important part of the learning process, regret ultimately calls us to act. It challenges us to take the lessons we've learned and apply them in our lives. This might mean making amends, pursuing a long-held dream, or changing a pattern of behavior that no longer serves us. Action is where the lessons of regret come to life. It's where we transform insight into growth, pain into progress, and reflection into change. Perhaps one of the most profound lessons regret teaches is about hope. Regret, for all its discomfort, is inherently forward-looking. It arises from a desire for something better, a better decision, a better outcome, a better version of ourselves. This desire is a sign of hope, a belief that we are capable of growth and that the future holds the potential for change. Regret reminds us that while we cannot rewrite the past, we have the power to shape the future. It challenges us to hold on to hope, to believe in our capacity to learn, and to trust in our ability to create a life that reflects our deepest values and aspirations. Regret is often misunderstood as a purely negative emotion, but in reality, it is a source of transformation. It is the kind of experience that, while painful, has the power to catalyze profound changes in how we live, think, and connect. Transformation does not come easily or without discomfort, and regret serves as a powerful motivator to reflect deeply on our choices and to envision new ways of being. It forces us to confront the dissonance between where we are and where we want to be, inviting us to bridge that gap through intentional actions and a renewed sense of purpose. The transformative power of regret lies in its ability to disrupt our comfort zones. In many ways, regret serves as a wake-up call, jolting us out of complacency, compelling us to take a closer look at the patterns and habits that define our lives. Without regret, it's easy to continue on autopilot, making decisions out of habit rather than intention. But when regret surfaces, it interrupts that flow. It forces us to pause, to question, and to reconsider. This interruption is not just a disruption, it's an opportunity to recalibrate, to identify what's not working, and to envision what might work better. Transformation through regret begins with self-awareness. Regret shines a light on the moments when our choices fell short of our ideals, highlighting the areas where we have room to grow. This process can be uncomfortable because it requires us to confront our imperfections and acknowledge our mistakes. Yet, it is precisely this discomfort that creates the conditions for change. When we sit with regret, when we allow ourselves to feel its weight and to explore its origins, we gain insights into who we are and who we want to become. Regret often serves as a mirror, reflecting not only our actions but also our deeper motivations, fears, and aspirations. It reveals the ways in which our choices are influenced by our values, or in some cases by the absence of clarity around those values. This reflection is not always easy, but it is necessary for transformation. It helps us see where we are out of alignment with our true selves and provides a starting point for the work of realigning. In this way, regret becomes a guide, pointing us toward the changes we need to make in order to live more authentically and intentionally. One of the most remarkable aspects of regret is its ability to inspire action. When we experience regret, it is often accompanied by a desire to do things differently, to repair what has been broken, to seize opportunities we previously missed, or to make choices that are more in line with our values. This desire for change is a powerful force, one that can propel us out of stagnation and into a state of growth. Regret, when embraced as a catalyst, transforms from a source of pain into a source of motivation. The process of transformation through regret is not linear. It involves cycles of reflection, learning, and action. At first, regret may feel overwhelming, a heavy burden that is difficult to carry. But as we begin to unpack it, to explore its causes and consequences, we start to see the lessons it holds. These lessons often point to areas where we need to grow, whether it's developing greater courage, practicing more empathy, or cultivating a deeper sense of self-awareness. The insights we gain from regret become the building blocks of transformation, helping us to shape a new and more intentional way of living. Regret also has a way of expanding our perspective. It challenges us to look beyond the immediate consequences of our actions and to consider the broader impact they have on our lives and the lives of others. This expanded perspective is a key component of transformation, as it allows us to see the interconnectedness of our choices and their ripple effects. It encourages us to think more deeply about the kind of legacy we want to leave, the relationships we want to nurture, and the values we want to uphold. Transformation through regret is not about erasing the past, but about learning from it. It's about taking the experiences that have shaped us, both the good and the bad, and using them to inform the way we move forward. Regret teaches us that we cannot change what has already happened, but we can change how we respond to it. This shift in perspective is transformative in itself, as it empowers us to take ownership of our lives and to approach the future with a sense of agency and purpose. Regret also plays a role in deepening our resilience. The process of confronting regret, reflecting on it, and using it as a catalyst for change requires emotional strength and fortitude. It's not easy to face the parts of ourselves that we wish we could have done differently, but doing so builds our capacity to endure and to grow. Each time we transform a regret into a lesson, we become more equipped to navigate the challenges and uncertainties of life. Resilience is not about avoiding pain or regret, it's about using those experiences as stepping stones to greater strength and wisdom. Another transformative aspect of regret is its ability to foster creativity. When we are faced with regret, we often find ourselves thinking about how things could have been different, what we could have done, said, or chosen instead. This kind of reflection, while painful, is also a form of imaginative problem solving. It challenges us to envision alternative possibilities and to consider new ways of approaching similar situations in the future. This creative process is at the heart of transformation, as it opens the door to innovation and growth. Regret also has a way of grounding us in the present. While it may initially pull us into the past, the lessons it offers are ultimately about the here and now. Regret reminds us that the choices we make in this moment have the power to shape our future. that the actions we take today can either perpetuate patterns of regret or pave the way for a more fulfilling and intentional life. This awareness of the present is a key component of transformation, as it allows us to engage with our lives more fully and to make choices that reflect our deepest values and aspirations. The transformative power of regret is also evident in its ability to strengthen our relationships. When we experience regret in the context of our interactions with others, it often motivates us to seek reconciliation, to repair what has been damaged, and to deepen our connections. These acts of vulnerability and accountability are profoundly transformative, as they create opportunities for growth and healing within our relationships. They remind us that transformation is not just an individual process, but a relational one, shaped by the ways we engage with and learn from the people in our lives. Regret also teaches us about the importance of courage. Transformation requires us to step out of our comfort zones, take risks, and to embrace uncertainty. Regret often points to the areas of our lives where we need to summon that courage, whether it's having a difficult conversation, pursuing a long-held dream, or making a change that feels daunting but necessary. This call to courage is at the heart of transformation, as it challenges us to confront our fears and to move forward with intention and determination. Ultimately, regret is a force for transformation because it connects us to our humanity. It reminds us that we are imperfect, that we make mistakes, and that we have the capacity to learn and grow. This recognition is not a source of weakness, but a strength. It empowers us to embrace our imperfections, to strive for better, and to use our regrets as a foundation for a life that is more authentic, intentional, and fulfilling. Regret is not an endpoint, but a turning point, a moment of reckoning that holds within it the seeds of transformation. Regret holds a special place in our lives, often arising from a desire for connection, understanding, and a sense of belonging. It reveals how deeply we are shaped by the bonds we form and the opportunities we miss to nurture those bonds. Regret in relationships can be one of the most profound experiences, and it serves as a testament to how much we value our connections with others. It is a reflection of our humanity, of the moments where we may have fallen short in expressing care, love, or empathy, and it carries with it a quiet but powerful reminder of how essential relationships are to our sense of fulfillment and purpose. When regret emerges in the context of relationships, it often does so with an acute clarity. We think back to the words left unsaid, the times we didn't reach out, or the moments when pride or fear kept us from mending a rift. These regrets are not merely about actions or inactions, they're about the emotional distance they create, the connections that fray or go untended. They remind us of the opportunities we had to show up for someone, to listen more deeply, or to love more fully. This type of regret has a unique weight, as it touches on the essence of what it means to be connected to others. Regret in relationships often teaches us about vulnerability. Relationships require a willingness to open ourselves up, to take emotional risks, and to show parts of ourselves that might feel tender or uncertain. When we regret not having done so, it highlights the moments where we let fear of rejection, misunderstanding, or conflict hold us back from being fully present. Vulnerability is a key ingredient of connection, and regret reminds us that without it, relationships can feel incomplete or distant. These lessons encourage us to be braver in our interactions, to lean into the discomfort of vulnerability, and to embrace the depth it can bring to our relationships. Another important aspect of regret in relationships is the lesson it teaches about presence. Life is filled with distractions, responsibilities, and competing demands on our time and energy. It's easy to let moments with loved ones slip by, assuming there will always be more time to connect or make amends. Regret, however, often stems from realizing that time is not infinite. It calls attention to the times when we're physically present but emotionally distant, or when we allow the pressures of life to overshadow the importance of simply being with those we care about. Presence is not just about proximity, it's about attention, intention, and engagement. Regret also illuminates the importance of communication in relationships. Many of our relational regrets are tied to things we said or didn't say. Words have immense power in shaping our connections, and when we misuse or withhold them, it can lead to misunderstanding, hurt, or missed opportunities for closeness. Regret teaches us to be more mindful of how we communicate, encouraging us to choose words that build bridges rather than walls. It reminds us to express appreciation, to apologize when needed, and to speak our truths with kindness and clarity. Empathy is another profound lesson that emerges from relational regret. When we reflect on moments of disconnection, we often gain a deeper understanding of the experiences and feelings of others. Regret challenges us to see situations from different perspectives, to consider how our actions or inactions affected the people we care about. This expansion of empathy helps us become more attuned to the needs and emotions of those around us, strengthening our capacity to nurture relationships and respond with compassion. Relational regret also teaches us about boundaries and balance. Not all regrets stem from failing to connect. Some arise from overextending ourselves, neglecting our own needs in an effort to please or accommodate others. These moments of regret highlight the importance of maintaining a healthy balance in relationships, of giving and receiving in a way that feels sustainable and authentic. They remind us that true connection doesn't come at the expense of our well-being, but rather thrives when we are able to show up as our whole selves with our boundaries intact. The role of forgiveness in relationships becomes particularly clear in the presence of regret. Whether it's forgiving others or seeking forgiveness ourselves, regret often points to areas where healing is needed. Forgiveness is not about erasing what happened, but about releasing the hold it has on us, creating space for reconciliation and growth. Regret teaches us that forgiveness is a gift we give not just to others, but to ourselves, allowing us to move forward with a lighter heart and a clearer sense of purpose. Regret also fosters gratitude in relationships. When we reflect on missed opportunities or moments of disconnection, it brings into focus the people who matter most to us in ways they enrich our lives. This awareness encourages us to cherish our relationships more deeply, to express our appreciation, and to cultivate a sense of gratitude for the connections we have. Gratitude, in turn, strengthens our bonds, creating a positive cycle of connection and appreciation. Another dimension of relational regret is the lesson it teaches about acceptance. Relationships are inherently imperfect because they are made up of imperfect people. Regret often stems from expecting too much of ourselves, of others, or of the relationship itself. It invites us to embrace the messiness of human connection, to let go of unrealistic expectations, and to find beauty in the imperfections. Acceptance doesn't mean settling for less. It means recognizing that true connection is not about perfection, but about authenticity and mutual effort. Regret also highlights the role of intention in relationships. Strong connections don't happen by accident. They require care, effort, and a commitment to nurturing them over time. When we regret not prioritizing a relationship, it serves as a reminder of the importance of being intentional in how we invest our time and energy. Relationships thrive when we approach them with thoughtfulness and purpose, and regret encourages us to be more deliberate in our actions moving forward. Relational regret often brings with it a sense of longing for closeness, understanding, or shared moments that feel lost. This longing is not just a reflection of what was, but also of what could be. It inspires us to strive for deeper connections, to bridge gaps, and to create opportunities for meaningful interaction. Longing is a powerful motivator, and when paired with the lessons of regret, it can lead to transformative growth in our relationships. Finally, regret teaches us about resilience in the face of relational challenges. Relationships are not always easy, and moments of regret are a natural part of navigating their complexities. Regret shows us that even when we falter, even when we miss opportunities or make mistakes, there's always the possibility of repair and renewal. It reminds us that relationships are dynamic, ever evolving, and capable of withstanding and growing from the challenges they face. Resilience in relationships is not about avoiding regret, but about using it as a stepping stone to stronger, more authentic connections.